Welcome back to another episode of the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. This episode, we welcome back Paul Eaton, comic book retailer and owner of Galactic Comics and Collectibles in Bangor, Maine, to discuss the 1989 Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie that actually a lot of people probably haven't seen because it never went to theaters and the DVD is hard to find and so on. But if you're interested in watching it before listening to this, pause. Head over to YouTube. I believe there's an option to watch it over there on YouTube. So check that out. If you've seen it or don't care and just want to listen to our review, check this episode out with Paul Eaton discussing the 1989 Punisher movie. But before you do, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, all those things, as well as rate, review, subscribe over on Apple and Spotify and all your major podcasting platforms. And if you do so choose to watch the video portion of this, you can find it on our website or over at YouTube on our YouTube channel. You can visit us on capesandtights.com. But this is the episode discussing the 1989 Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie with Paul Eaton of Galactic Comics and Collectibles. Enjoy, everyone. Recording in progress. We're recording.
Whoa.
It's such a half-assed intro. We were on this too much together to just like, whatever, we'll just get this thing going. Let's finish this.
Right? Yeah.
Hey, Paul, did you pick up Antarctica Volume 1 from Image Comics and Top Cow Comics?
I sold out of Antarctica #1 before I could get my own copy of it, but I'm excited.
There's a nice little pull quote on the back with a 4.5 out of 5 star rating from Capes and Tights podcast. So if you look at that shine on that thing.
It is. It's nice. Like, it's a beautiful cover.
I did not. That wasn't planned, by the way. That was just happened to be right there.
Yeah, sure it wasn't.
I haven't put my comics away from last week. They're here. I had a sick kid.
That's true. That's true.
How was
Nova
a
feeling?
month? Great. Much better. Much
Good.
better. He's sleeping through the night too, which is one of those things that he regressed back when he was sick to not wanting to sleep by himself. The only way we can get him to sleep now is with the door open. Because he's like, I want the door open because I want to be able to hear you. And he's like yelling at us, like, Mama, Dad, talk to each other because he wants to make sure we're still there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not leaving, dude. You're fine. You're okay.
Right. Yeah.
But it is what it is. But he's doing much better.
Good.
He made his second appearance on the podcast last week. His first appearance was when he was like wicked young. Now he's almost 3 and he's doing that now. And then
I thought that was
Taylor,
cute. He told all of us to enjoy.
Hey, Taylor had her another appointment today, and we get another ultrasound coming up here pretty soon, but we're getting close to our second child too, which is gonna be fun.
Holy smokes.
To do. So I'll get no sleep. I already got no sleep.
I already got no sleep.
I'll get more no sleep. So I was just thinking, I was like, Noah, get back to sleeping through the night. I want at least a week or two with like actual normal sleep before I don't get to sleep again for a couple of months. Like, let's do this. And so he's listening. He's getting there.
All right. Yeah, this is
but
for all of you out there who don't know, this is parenthood, folks.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, we could do an entire podcast on just being dads.
I'm excited because eventually I'll be able to like hopefully share some of the stuff that we talk about on here. Maybe one of these days he'll listen to some of these safer ones of the episodes with some of the safer guests. Maybe not the ones with Paul and I, but like with other people that he might want to listen to.
Are ours that bad? They might be.
But one thing I will tell you that will not let him sleep is watching Punisher. If he watches the Punisher movie from 1989, he will not sleep.
I seriously debated on having Charlie watch this with me. And I don't think that would be a great idea. I don't know. She's hard. She's so mature. Like, yeah. I mean, she read Whale Fall. She watches her own like shows and stuff. So like, this might. Maybe. I mean, I watched it when I was 5.
It's a 1980s action movie. It's basically what it is. It's not like with a film like wearing a costume to be a Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's a I don't know.
Some of the kills in it are pretty graphic, which I mean is if you want to get into like the Punisher, right? I mean that's what you want to I guess see, right? I mean that's him. That's Frank
Castle right there. But yeah, so we're here to talk about the Punisher, the 1989 film starring the one and the only Dolph Lundgren. Yeah, it's just a great thing. You know what's funny about it is too is like after watching it, I was like, you know, who could have played the Punisher is now I always forget his name from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury.
I still haven't watched
Baywatch. No, Baywatch.
Oh, David Hasselhoff.
David Hasselhoff could have played.
God,
the Punisher.
Oh God,
it's better. This movie was better than that by far. But my point would be is that like it has this similar, I don't know, weird feel to it. So
like they tried to make it comic booky to a degree.
Yes, but not too much.
There's scenes in it that are like definitely made for comic book vibe. Like I feel like a lot of like the motorcycle scenes, the him in the playhouse, the him in the sewers, like stuff like that look like they tried to make a set look like comic book. It's like the Tim Burton stuff.
Yeah.
Like you tried to make it look like a comic book.
But I mean, overall, for the late 1980s, so here's I guess my big thing is looking back when we look at these movies that are not as great as some of the newer movies that have come out over the past few years is
Hmm.
why they decided to use certain characters, why certain, I know some of it has to do with like bankruptcies and selling off rights to pay bills and things like that. So like there is certain reasons why certain characters get used. I mean, why Marvel didn't use certain characters. Like, they just released the X-Men animated show
Right.
trailer, which is fantastic. If anybody hasn't seen that yet, it gave me such chills and nostalgic feel that this animated show is coming back on March 20th. I'm so pumped for it. But
Same chills I got watching The Punisher from my nostalgia feel.
but like they had to pick these characters, and I feel like as the Punisher is a character that is approachable to all people who like action movies because you can
Yeah.
understand them. The story is not new.
No, and
A
I
guy,
mean, if you're
it,
trying to just make an 80s action movie, which,
yeah.
action movies were huge then, you're talking about like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon and all these other action movies that were enormous, then why not make The Punisher this time? Like, it makes perfect sense. Graphic violence action movies, my
It's all
favorite.
you need to do. I mean, there's no reason
They're
to.
all
There's
out there.
there's no superpowers that you need to put in here, and I'm surprised they
No.
didn't do something more on top of that. Like, literally, this movie, if you didn't tell someone it was a Marvel character, they wouldn't have known and they wouldn't have cared.
No,
You know what I
probably
mean? Like
not.
it would have made a difference to people because they. And so part of me, I was thinking about this morning, putting around the house, getting my coffee and stuff like that was I love, me, I love my Marvel connected universe. Like I loved
Right.
back, I mean, my big thing was back in early 2014, 2015, when there was a lot of that stuff, Secret Invasion, Secret Wars, all that stuff coming together in that time frame where I was reading Thor and it was one angle of what you could see in Secret Invasion or in New Avengers. And I was like, this is so badass. This is amazing. I love that stuff. And then you get into the MCU where a lot of this stuff is connected and so on and so forth. But watching this made me want more, this is in the same universe, but not connected in a way that you have to see everything else. So Moon
Right.
Knight, for an example, the TV show Moon Knight was like that. Like it was done in a way that we all know it exists in the MCU, but they didn't actually have like Captain America show up or Iron Man show up or talk about this or talk about New York or
Yeah.
talk about this.
It,
It
wa- it
was just
wasn't it wasn't in your face or anything of
it
that
was it
MCU connection.
encapsulated event. Like there is
What
things that happen
right.
in the MCU that don't have to be
What
talked
else?
about in the broader MCU. Like we do things on our daily basis.
Right.
Me and you, we see stuff, we say hi to we don't talk about things that are going on in Chicago. So you don't have to, just because it's existing in the same universe doesn't mean we have to have a conversation about it. And I feel
Nobody's
sometimes
knocking
they
on my door.
shoehorn that in. Sometimes they shoehorn that in. Like oh, Hulk. And okay, they said the Hulk means it's in the MCU. Cool. We figured that out. And I wish they did more movies like this, which is like, it's another story. A Howard the Duck movie we talked about. We saw
Right.
that, but like a new Howard the Duck movie that just is Howard the Duck. It's just a Howard the Duck story.
Right.
Like it doesn't have to be Howard the Duck meets Captain America. And so I wish there was more of that. So that's what me watching this was like, oh, I kind of like this idea that like it's a movie about
Also,
Punisher
I mean, even
that's
back
just
then,
about Punisher.
I don't know what else you would have wrapped in for any other MCU stuff, anyways. The
Obviously,
old
they
Captain
weren't
America
thinking about that
70s
anyway.
or
But yeah.
whatever. Yeah. So I mean, they were all freestanding, and that was nice that this was freestanding. Um, I, I mean, I grew up watching this movie.
Yeah.
I
I
still
was
to this day
three.
hate this movie. Honestly, like we watched it again, and I watched it like from all right, let's do this outside
Yeah.
perspective. Let's not have the nostalgia childhood glasses on. I personally think the Thomas Jane Punisher was the best Punisher
Mm-hmm.
movie, and I honestly think this is number two, and that includes the TV series. I'm not a huge fan of the TV
Oh,
series.
okay.
I like this better. I think it nails some of the Punisher. Like, I feel like watching what Dolph Lundgren does in this movie, because the background they change, right? They say he's a cop. It doesn't
Yeah.
go into being like a Marine or anything. I feel like just watching his training and the amount of these guys he takes out and his familiarity to all these weapons and stuff, he's probably more than a cop. Like
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have to say it, but he probably did some stuff before going to like the police force. And he's like, I don't know, he's an imposing character. The size of him, he's like, um, he like Dolph Lundgren did a pretty good job of nailing down the Punisher. Um, and the movie definitely has a little bit of corniness here and there and a little cheesiness here and there. But overall, I feel like if you want to show someone what the Punisher is, this isn't a bad
No, yeah.
like
The casting, you mentioned Dolph Lundgren. Like it's one of those early Marvel movies that we talked about, like the standalone, because they obviously weren't interconnected, and more like this studio is making one and this studio is making another, of the best castings of all those movies that came out in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I mean, we just talked about, David Hasselhoff playing Agent, Nick Fury. Like the visual looking at his original Nick Fury. Okay, I can see that. Like if you see the picture of it, okay, you can see that. But then seeing him act, yeah. But then if you go into here, it's like, okay, this I could actually picture Dolph Lundgren playing. He could have played Punisher for years to come, and I would have.
Yeah, I would have seen sequels of this, and like he could have continued on.
The one different thing though is like all I could pick. After I was watching this, I was going, he just seems like this. Obviously, his kids die. There's a death. He's acting on revenge. However, it did just see like this, like I don't know, goth, like never ever making any facial expressions at all. Like not even like
he's always very straight face,
monotoned. It was like this whole like it didn't feel anything, and I was like, okay, I understand, but like there still should be some sort of like something to him going on. It's just like he'd have conversations and things like that. He'd be like, yeah, and so meet me back here tonight.
Yeah, no, he was definitely very dry.
Yeah.
I wonder if some of that was. I mean, he has an accent. I wonder if they were trying to like let's go as much without that as possible. But I feel like they went for this like idea that he was just out there killing criminals. That was his entire life. Besides that, he lives in a sewer, folks.
Yeah,
he lives in a sewer.
and he hangs out with Leonardo and Michelangelo and the Ninja Turtles.
Very nice sewer. Like, that's a pretty solidly nice looking sewer. For
the cheesy lines though, like the 1980s action movies too, are things where she's like, someone's like, we haven't been able to find him, and the woman goes, have you checked the sewers? I'm like, what?
Yeah. What if we looked? I've looked at every place near and above this city. Have you looked under it?
Yeah. It'd be like, hey Paul, have you seen Garrett today? No. Have you checked the trees? I mean, obviously he was
Garrett
down
gets
there.
Up a tree. I mean, I guess pandas climb them, right? Garrett's kind of panda-ish. Like
a big panda, man. No, but I just thinking like it was so funny, like, oh my gosh, okay, you're like, I don't know, I felt like it's in the same level of when someone says the title of a movie in the movie, or tries, like shortcuts to figure out how they figured out he was in the sewer, like shortcuts to say that by just saying, have we checked underneath the city? And now you don't have to do anything else but like, oh, we should check underneath the city, and then this rest goes to bed. Like you don't have to actually do any investigation on that side of it.
The logical side of it, this guy has like hunted for him for years, and he's looked near every spot that these killings are taking place and this and that, and he always vanishes. Then I guess this is your logical explanation, right? I mean,
but is he any good if he had someone else had to tell him to look in the sewers?
Yeah, no.
Like he's looked everywhere. I've looked everywhere. But I don't want to go in the sewer.
His former partner that's obsessed with finding him, that's obsessed with the fact that Frank Castle's alive and he's the Punisher, because everyone else thinks that Frank Castle's dead. You would think he might have gone to that route sooner, but maybe not.
That's
maybe
dirty
not.
down there, Paul. It's wet. It's wet and dirty. I don't want to get dirty and wet. Are you kidding me?
I don't want to go wander around the sewer either.
I just thought it was funny. I was like, someone else had to tell you after all these years. Like, yeah.
Yeah, as he's going on about, all I got's a bunch of these shell casings and a whole bunch of these knives. And she's like, oh, did you ever look in the sewer?
Nope.
All right, so it has some plot.
I'm afraid of the turtles. The Ninja Turtles are going to get me. That's why I didn't get down there.
Okay, it's right. It plot issues. It doesn't have, maybe it needs a little help with the writing on the plot. But overall, the villain's bad, right?
Yes,
I mean, these gangs and the Mafia, and then the Triad come in here. So, like, you're getting into all of these gangs and stuff, and it's perfect in the form of Punisher villains, where it's just a bunch of crime bosses. It's a bunch of street level stuff. Frank doesn't deal a lot in superhero things, and also I hate ones where it is. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to see, if you're reading them, and I try to explain this to people that bring in Punisher collections sometimes, and they're like, it's usually like, I don't know what these are, but here's this whole bunch of Punisher comics. I know who Punisher is. I'm like, well, there isn't a lot of key books because he kills everybody he sees.
Yes.
Like, you're not going to get a returning villain. You're not going to have a first appearance that the guy comes back later because Frank kills him. That's his deal. That's what he does.
So it's been a
So,
long time since I've read the first appearance of Punisher. Does he kill someone in the first appearance of Punisher? Do you know?
oh boy, good question. I
Because I'm
don't
wondering if there's
remember.
like, is
I
there a
read
key
that a
book
long
for
time
his
ago.
first kill? Like, is there
Right,
a
because
key? Is
he's
there a key?
trying to. It was funny because he comes in as this like assassin guy who's
Yeah.
trying to kill Spider-Man that uh the Jackal hires, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, I think he just tries to kill Spider-Man, but you don't really know what his deal is. And I don't know that you get to know a whole lot about his deal until that miniseries.
Okay,
The
according to Marvel Database on fandom.com, he has killed 362 unknown criminals. Hold on.
Sounds accurate.
And killed by Punisher off screen. I mentioned 665 was his career lifetime kill, minus those already counted for. So it looks like 665.
Which is some of the books there, some of the heroes, depending on who they're talking to,
Yeah.
like look at him like a serial killer,
Yeah.
which he
Well,
is
that's
essentially.
when you see this too. It's
Like,
like think about the people that outside of mass shootings or mass suicides or these big things in the United States, like when they mention numbers like what 125, 120, something like that in this movie, that's a lot
right,
of people to be killed to kill
125.
and not be caught.
Yeah. And I love
Like,
I love his thing to it, right? They finally catch him. The police finally catch him and they got him. They're like, what do you have to say for yourself? What do you call 125 murders in 2 years? And he goes, a good start. Work
yeah.
in progress.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like, and I mean, and that's the Punisher. Like they nailed down the whole idea that like this is his partner. This is
Yeah.
like his connection to regular life, but to him, he's just gone. He's just dead. Like Frank Castle died. The Punisher was born the day that his family was murdered, and he is what he is. And I thought they did a great job of that. Like he is what he is.
Yeah.
There's no stopping him. There's no reasoning with him. There's no like he's just gonna get them. Like that's his entire deal. And
And
I
that,
thought that was well done.
very well done. I think that's one of those things I think I love to stand up about this movie is the fact that it's a ground street level movie with street level characters that have a little bit they're not like it's not a superhero movie. It's not at all. Even
No,
though you would
no.
if you consider when you talk about generic, you don't look at a Punisher comic book on the shelf and be like, oh, that's not a superhero comic book. It's gonna get lumped into superhero comic books because Punisher
Yeah,
exists in the Marvel universe.
is in the Marvel
But
universe.
this
But
is
at
not.
the
This
end
is
of
a
the day,
standalone in that sense, a standalone movie. And the other thing is like he didn't have his traditional like outfit. Think about it, like it's what's cool about it. Like that's one of
right.
those things. Like I mentioned,
He did a good job. He's got
if
the
you did
leather
say
coat. He's all dark.
obviously it says the Punisher, they call him the Punisher, so they have
He's
that.
got the
The
skull
movie's
knives.
the movie's called Punisher, but if you would just show this to someone who didn't know, they would just think it's a 1980s action movie, and that's what I loved about it. And that's one of those things that like made me happy about it. And every action movie is literally just, I mean, people are gonna villainize me for this, but like John Wick 1 through 4 is the exact same movie over and over again.
Yeah,
Just Keanu Reeves killing a bunch of people, and
agreed.
so like
That's why I with John Wick, I always said like 1980s, early 1990 Paul would have loved John Wick.
yeah,
The older I just don't I can't sit there and just watch him kill all these guys. I just don't care anymore. Like
and,
I'm not. It doesn't do it for me. Um, the
but you and
Punisher.
sorry,
The Punisher in this one, I think the one thing they missed that could have hit the comic side and given you that like Marvel feel was when the guy went to hand him body armor. If Frank's just like stares at it and he's like, no, the guy's like, shoot yourself. Is if he took the body armor and did the Punisher skull on
yeah,
it. And that would have been and that's the only reason Frank wears body armor is so that he stands a chance of killing more people, like more criminals. And the reason he's got the big skull is for them to aim at the body armor.
yeah.
So like that would have given you that whole thing because the rest of it's right. He does not care. Like,
But what I loved about did you like the regular Daredevil series that was on Netflix?
yes,
So that's what I like. So the big thing I loved about that is the very first season. Spoiler alerts for anybody who hasn't seen this show that came out 15 years ago.
God, has it been that? It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Is that or 10 years ago, whatever it was.
Whatever it is.
Is that they didn't have a suit. They basically didn't call him Daredevil or any of that
Yeah.
stuff until the very final episode of the first season, where they basically show him like getting into suit and getting into character, getting into that
Yeah.
idea. The fact of
Realizing
the matter
he needs
is,
something more than just this black costume.
if you and I were to get superpowers, even superpowers tomorrow, and either those two characters that have like just heightened senses and heightened abilities because they've had to work that way, like Punisher and Daredevil. But if you and I got superpowers tomorrow, or I was the Daredevil and you were Punisher, we wouldn't just immediately be like, I'm the Punisher, and I'm Daredevil, and I have a suit and all this stuff. It'd take you time. You'd be more like the show or the comic book series and show Heroes, where you just have superpowers and you live your life and you use your superpowers and you save people and do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
but you wouldn't have that. So like, I kind of respected that part about the Punisher movie, where it was like, they could have gone that whole movie and not even called him the Punisher.
Right.
And I would have been fine about that until the very end, because I'm like, okay, cool. They wouldn't have had that. However, it does seem like he was pre-existing for a good amount of time prior to this movie starting, in that sense. Like, they didn't start with this as being an origin story. This was just basically...
He kills a whole bunch of guys in the beginning. And that was another one of the things with the Punisher. That this criminal gets off, this like mafia mob boss, whatever he is, gets off on all charges. They can't make it stick. And the Punisher kills him anyways. Like, the Punisher knows he's guilty, and it shows like the court system failure and like what he does. Like, he is the balance to it. And then they get into like all the press know it's him, and they like all zoom in, and then it kind of shows that he's been doing this for a bit, and then you start getting the flashbacks to what caused it. I thought that was sort of good though. Rather than like the old Batman, Bruce Wayne walking down the alley, every movie starts off and you're like, oh god, again.
That's what was impressive to me.
Again.
Well, that's impressive to me. In 1989, someone was thinking we don't need to do an origin story. In 1989, and that's one of those things that every time we got a new Star Wars, a new Spider-Man, new Ben, new killing, new this, new bit by radioactive spider, and they didn't do that in the Marvel universe really until they reintroduced Spider-Man into the MCU, where they're just like, okay, you guys understand this.
It took a while. Batman just finally did it too with the newest one,
the new Batman with
the Batman,
Matt Reeves Batman,
not showing us the whole thing, and they still had a clip with it in there,
which is what I don't mind. Go back, flashback. I mean, they did that kind of with the whole pulling the picture out of the wallet and saying these two girls, or like it showed the reason why he does what he does,
and then his nightmares.
And no one's really defending his physical actions, but they're not defending it, if that makes any sense. Like, okay, he's killing bad people. This is also different people. If anybody doesn't know the Punisher, this is not like Robin Hood, where Robin Hood robs the rich, gives to the poor. This is what Punisher thinks he's doing, in a sense. Like, he's helping the world by killing all these bad people, but
I don't even know if
it's still mass murder. Like, people,
I don't even know if he cares that he's helping the world to a degree.
It is bad people, and they need to go away.
This is what he now sees. Like, it is a bit of a prevention thing. Like, if he kills these guys, then this won't happen to someone else's family.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, like, I don't know. I think something snapped there. There's like a mental problem where something is just gone.
You think something snapped there, Paul?
You think something snapped there? And like, I think you would get to a dangerous part with Frank Castle of like, there's no crime. He's like killing jaywalkers. You know what I mean? Like, he can't shut it off. Like, I don't know. Like, would he ever stop? Like, is that a potential, or is he just gonna keep going?
Yeah, I mean, there's enough bad people out there that he doesn't have he doesn't think, he just does too. It's not even like,
there's always gonna be the one that fills the vacuum in there, that fills that void of, if he kills a big drug cartel, the next drug cartel comes in and he just starts killing them. Like, I think so. I'm a Punisher fan in the comics. I've read a lot of Punisher books. I think this did a good job of that idea that Frank is, it's very true to the comics, that Frank is what he is, and he doesn't have a life. There isn't he's not Bruce Wayne during the day. I mean, this one shows him living in the sewers. Sometimes he's living in a van. He doesn't, I imagine if you're walking past Frank down the street, he probably doesn't smell great. Showering is not something that's high on his thing, unless it's to make sure that people can't smell him coming. But everything he does is to kill criminals. Like, he kills criminals, he takes their weapons, so he has more weapons to kill more criminals. If he takes money from them, it's to buy stuff he needs so he can kill more criminals. Like, oh, I gotta gas the van up because I'm going to another state because this guy got loose, and that's just all he is and all he does. And there was a good comic series I read where he has this like trigger moment where this mobster kills a wedding party, and he was only like, they were sent to kill this one person, and they just like went nuts, and Frank snaps and kills the bad guys that killed them, and killed the mobsters that sent them, and killed the people the mobsters worked with. And the book goes by really quick because most panels don't have anything to read besides the news articles that come on about like, oh, the Punisher has killed 27 people in 24 hours, or mobsters begging for their lives. And besides that, it's just Frank getting more and more beat up, like waking up in the morning and putting on the TV and
Yep.
going to the arsenal and taking out whatever's left. You know, when it starts, this arsenal's like fully loaded. By the time he's done, he's like running out of stuff, but he just keeps going and he's bandaged up his head and he's, bleeding from his hands. And I read it really quickly and then went, wow, that was a fast read. I went back through and looked. I'm like, well, that's why. And I actually really appreciated it. And I feel like this movie did a great job of that, nailing the essence of this character.
Yep.
And that's why I like it so
100%.
much. Even the Thomas Jane one is a little too like planned, revengeful
Yep.
thing, where like Thomas Jane does all this stuff to make the mobster turn on his own people, and Dolph Lundgren's Punisher would have just killed all of his own people and then killed the guy too. Like there isn't going to be this big plot plan, blackmailing and all this stuff that Thomas Jane's Punisher did. Like Dolph Lundgren's is just going to like mow them all over. And I feel like that's the Punisher. Like it is what it is.
Yep. And we talked about a little bit in the shop, like for a quick second, about how the one reason why it's hard for me, because I don't think so. Like the one Punisher, there's one Punisher in Punisher Warzone that is suspect. Right, like out of the Punisher things, I think that this movie is great. And the funny thing about this movie, Paul, is that I don't think a lot of people have seen it.
No,
even
well,
Punisher, you're big Punisher fans. So here's the deal. So it was released in 1989, which is also I was trying to figure this out. It's like kind of funny. I kept every time I Google it, you have to type in like Punisher 1989 because you need to get the right Punisher. And I'm thinking,
right.
I'm treating this like like Batman 1989. It's like people all know Batman 1989 is Batman, right? But it's kind of funny. I'm like Punisher 1989, completely on different levels, like not even close to the same movie.
I am surprised. So I would have thought this came out before 89, because I remember watching this when I like rented it as a kid. And 89 Batman I saw in theaters. Like I was obsessed with 89 Batman. I'm surprised I didn't see this Punisher movie in theaters.
Yeah. It's because the reason why you didn't is because it wasn't released in the theaters in the United States. So the funny thing about this is it came out October 5th in 1989 in around the world, in every country, or basically any country, major country that like shows movies in the theaters, except for the United States, Sweden, and South Africa. It was slated to be released in August of 1989 in the United States. However, due to financial problems with New World's Entertainment, the company that produced the movie and was distributing the movie.
New World Entertainment also did Ninja Turtles, didn't it?
Possibly. I don't know, but they had some financial issues, so they couldn't actually do it. And so they ended up not doing that. And then it released on DVD in where was it? Home Media. 1991, it released on Laserdisc and direct-to-video, VHS.
Yeah.
And then it finally premiered at the Escapism Film Festival in Durham, North Carolina in 2008. So that was the first time it was on theater screens in the United States. Was 2008 technically. And then he showed the film again in 2009 to Dolph Lundgren at the New Beverly Theater, but it never actually released in the United States in theaters, and that was mainly because of financial issues with New World Cinema.
So that's why I never saw this movie in theaters. Interesting.
It did make it onto VHS and Laserdisc.
There is a Laserdisc action movie buff at that age as a kid.
But to not released in the United States,
to like all of them. So
it did not be released in the United States. It was on a budget for $9 million. It boxed office for $30 million. So like it made money for them.
It made money. It's amazing that it made money and didn't get the opportunity to get the theater release, which I mean, back then. Nowadays, theater releases I feel like are kind of meh. They're not as important because everybody streams everything anyways. But back then, your theater release was like a big deal. So it would be interesting to know what would have happened if that had actually gone in theaters. Would it have pulled more? Would it have been a bigger box office thing? So fun fact I know, of all action heroes, the one who has the most on-screen kills is Dolph Lundgren. And I'm thinking that this probably helped his numbers a lot.
It was, well, I wrote my notes here.
Or Chuck Norris or whatever. Dolph Lundgren kills an awful lot of bad dudes in this movie.
It said didn't shy away from killing or graphic violence, which is something
Oh,
unusual for a Marvel movie up until more recently when they've decided to do some more R-rated stuff. Lots of gunfighting, action is obviously all there because it's a
oh yeah.
Punisher movie. Um, there was actually some nudity. Which again, I not to point out because I'm a creep, but because I like to point out because this is a Marvel-owned property. You know, I mean, it's one of
Okay.
those
All
weird
right.
things. You know, it's
I
one of
didn't
those
even
things.
notice it, but
Yeah, there was in the strip club. They went to
oh,
that
okay.
strip club, and he was in the strip club. They saw
Oh, when he
that, but
started blowing that place all up. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. The casino.
But I just thought it was interesting to see a strip club be introduced into a Marvel movie is one of those weird things that you wouldn't
Right.
typically see or you don't typically see nowadays.
He comes
Um,
smashing through the window there.
mhm.
Yep.
And so like it definitely had some
The
more
skylight.
obscure things that you wouldn't see. There when he
Excuse me.
when he kills the kids are playing and there's a bear.
Oh
You see
yeah, the
like
bear.
the creepy freaking
Oh yeah, the creepy bear. The
gets a bullet
yeah,
in the
like
head
the
basically.
nanny's doing it there, and
Yeah.
then the bad guys come to steal the kids. Yeah.
That was crazy. And the other one that I thought, oh, the kids, I'm sorry. I hate to do this and throw them under the bus. The kids in this movie sucked. They were
Not great actors.
horrible actors.
Not
Like,
not
oh
great
my
actors.
gosh, bad actors.
Yeah.
And that's not to say anything. Obviously, I say that in a way that, like, I don't want to shit on the kids, but in the same sense, like, there are really good actors who are kids. So, like,
Oh yeah,
it's not like they
100%.
couldn't get them. It's just these kids in this thing
100%.
were horrible. And I guess they just didn't put it into the budget. They didn't care,
Probably didn't
whatever.
think that much of it, like realistically,
But
like because the whole point of the kids were that they were the crime boss's children and that
yeah.
they get kidnapped and that the crime bosses don't know what to do about it, and then Frank has to solve it. And I feel like it gives you that little bit of like, oh, Frank still has the good guy, quote unquote, side him because he
Mhm.
comes for the kids and makes sure he gets them all safe.
Yeah. So the
I
only other
think in
movie
this, I
that
think in
that
this
I
movie he probably kills bad guys every way that is humanly
yes,
possible.
yes, yeah, it's pretty good. That's what's cool. It's cool about that. It's like it's not like it's a very, I guess it's a fun movie to watch. You put it on, action. You're gonna, people. It's
Yeah.
a 1989 movie, so you're gonna get these special effects or whatever. Not special
Yeah,
effects.
but
There
I mean
really
the
isn't
special
any.
effects aren't bad because the special effects aren't really
They're more
there.
practical effects than there are than
Yeah, there
anything.
isn't
But yeah.
that much on it to ask of it. Um,
So this might
yeah,
be
I
the
think
best
if you're
movie
an
that they
action
put
movie,
out.
if you're an
New
action movie
World
fan, watch this movie.
New World Pictures, I think the best movie they ever put out is this movie because the only other movie that I
Okay.
can even see on here that I even kind of understand and know is Children of the Corn from 1984, which
Okay, so
wasn't a very good movie.
they did not put out the neutral movie there.
No, because their last movie, this is
No,
the second to last movie they made as New World Pictures. Obviously, they got purchased by someone
and
else because
then
that's
they
how
got
the
bought out.
world works. Was Die Watching is the last movie they made in 1993. The
Never heard of
Punisher
it.
is the second to last one.
Wow.
Um,
All right.
and they made a movie called Warlock. Oh, Killer Tomatoes Eats France. Is that next on the list now?
Add that to our list.
We're gonna watch New World Picture movies. And they did some TV stuff too. They
A
did the
friend of mine
Zorro. They did the
does
Zorro
that.
TV show.
Okay. A friend of mine does that. He loves these like this one Full Moon Productions, this one specific horror movie filmmaking, whatever, and they're all really, really corny. They're
Do
really
you want to
bad.
know? They actually made in 1995, 96, they were the company behind the Mark Wahlberg show.
Okay.
However, they did actually make the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, and Spider-Man animated shows of Fox ones, like the Fantastic Four animated show
Well,
back in
okay. Yeah.
'94. They did make those, and they also made the Incredible Hulk one as well. So they did some good animated stuff.
All right.
Because that
So at
stuff
this
is
point, Marvel apparently was like under
in
contract with that. That must
with
have been
them, yeah. But it
interesting.
just sucks because, like I said, this is another one, and I a lot of times I post this when we post this video or post this on the website. I click this thing, you can watch the video. It's not possible. I think you can watch it on YouTube. We were able to get a copy of it, but like I think it might be
Yeah.
available to stream full on YouTube,
I
which I don't.
still own this on DVD. I don't think I have a Blu-ray copy, but I own a DVD copy
I
of
don't think
it.
they have a Blu-ray copy.
Yeah,
I don't think
probably
it is
not.
available on Blu-ray because you can't buy it on Amazon or anything like that right now. So it
Wow.
looks like a guy put the Dolph Lundgren 1989 Punisher on YouTube. So if you are interested in watching it, you can watch it on YouTube. Did you notice the opening credits reminded me a lot of like a James Bond movie?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like it looked like
yeah,
a mystery thriller,
yeah.
like spy thriller
Frank
that was going to
Frank's
happen.
walking in there shooting the thing, and then it
And there's like
explodes, and
but
then
then
it
there's like
keeps
this like
going with the
circle.
rings. Yeah, these like
Yeah.
rings of showing like I don't know. I don't even know what the hell they were. Like
I don't know what it is.
criminals,
I almost thought it was like maybe are we gonna see Bullseye? Like what's going on here?
something.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
but like
Actually, it would have been a good tie-in to bring Bullseye into the movie.
but it was kind
Um,
of funny. I'm watching. I'm like, wait, is this the right movie?
yeah, and
Because
he's got that giant like rifle, that like M60 or whatever, and he's
yeah,
blasting the thing. Um, yeah, the beginning of it felt like an old 70s
yeah.
action movie, like Dirty Harry style, or
Oh, and
or the old Bond movies. Definitely, they definitely pulled that straight from there.
he did have the skull on his jacket. I just realized
Okay,
that it may not have been made in the movie because on the picture they had, one of the pictures they have online of like the promotional pictures
it's
on
him
the
with
like the left breast pocket area is his skull.
okay, and he
So
always
there's
said
possible.
the only thing I remember seeing specifically was the skull on the knives.
Mm.
Like he always has when he kills these guys, and there's always like one of these knives left behind, it's like his calling card. Which you would think
But
you would just hunt down the knife manufacturer
yeah,
on this, because how many I mean, knife manufacturers are filling orders for hundreds of knives with
nice, but
skulls
yeah,
on the end of them. They're all the
this
same.
is the '80s, Paul. Like they didn't have the technology to do it then.
I mean, you
Come
know what? That's
on,
true. That's true.
give them
Actually,
the
like
benefit of the
he
doubt.
wasn't going to get on the internet and check into it. Like you would have been going through like what, like merchandise catalogs and
Yeah,
checking out all of these like weapons stores and or whatever, like military supply places in New York,
yep.
trying to figure out where the hell he was getting all these knives from. Yeah, that's true.
So I think, to be honest, the this is on par with me to the TV show. I liked the TV show. I liked some aspects of the TV show. I liked the slow burn of the TV show. I like that kind of thing. And I think maybe Punisher as a whole, his story's written for, it was a serialized comic book to start off with, obviously. So
It's
like, is
pretty
it written
easy
for
to
that
turn this.
style of like,
Yeah.
into a TV show?
Besides the Punisher Warzone movie that I shut off about 5 minutes in. I
Yeah,
think I made it five.
so Punisher Warzone is like horrible, and then you have like the TV show and this, and I'll still edge the fact that Punisher, uh, um, what's his face is Punisher. You just mentioned him,
Oh, Thomas Jane.
Thomas Jane's Punisher, and it's mainly because I think his investment into the character. I think that's one of those main big things. It's like he
He
wanted to play this
really,
character.
really liked the character, the
He
Punisher.
really liked playing it. He wants to. I would love to see him in this multiverse. A badass it would be if he showed up in Deadpool
Oh my
as the
God, yeah.
Punisher.
Yeah. Yeah, if Deadpool's
He'd do
going
it for
around
free.
killing bad MCU creations, and then he shows up, he's like, you know what, you can stay.
Yeah, he'd
And
do it
Thomas
for
Jane's
free.
be like, yeah.
Guarantee you Thomas Jane would just be like, I'll be there. Just let me
Yeah,
be
he's
there.
just there.
I
He's
want
just
to play
there
the
killing
character again.
killing bad guys, and then Deadpool shows up and he's like, yeah.
But the thing is that we did talk about this, and it reminded me, and that's why I watched it again, was the fact that, like, let's be honest, though, John Travolta in this movie, that movie sucked. So, like,
I
there's
like
this
John
reason.
Travolta in that movie.
No, it was horrible. And so, like, that's where, like, comes into my fact of, like, well, do I like the TV show? Do I like this one? The only one that's really bad, I think, is the Ray Stevenson Warzone one.
Yeah, that was really bad.
That's
I
really
don't
bad.
love the casting on the Punisher TV series. I've gone through it with people
Okay.
in here that are like upset when I say that. I'm sorry. I don't like him as the Punisher or as Frank Castle. I just don't see it. I mean, Dolph Lundgren, I think, is the Punisher. When you see him like in the comics and stuff, he's this big, intimidating guy. Like if he doesn't have a gun or a knife or a crossbow, he's probably just gonna kill him with bare hands, because he is like this jacked dude that is like terrifying. If you're in a back alley doing something and the Punisher walks up, you're definitely gonna stop doing that and run like hell. Like the average mugger or something. I would love to see that. That'd be a great scene in the comic of like the Punisher like just walking through an alley and some mugger, and he just
like,
wets himself and just runs. Like,
Yeah, I'm done. I don't want to do this. I don't want to hang out here. I don't want to do this anymore.
nope.
So obviously they don't. I use a lot of letterbox.com. This is 2.7. So this movie is a 2.7 out of 5. So if you do that calculation, that's what, a 5.4 out of 10. Which, okay, I can see that. Whatever. The Punisher. Where did it go? I just had it. The Punisher with Thomas Jane, 2.9 out
A little
of,
better.
out of 5.
A little
Punisher
better.
Warzone, 2.7. It's the
No.
same thing. This is the same
Nope.
thing.
Not even close. That Punisher Warzone. I mean, all right. I guess to be fair, I would have to sit there and watch the whole friggin' thing.
Yeah.
But I can tell you at my 5 minute mark and shutting it off, I'd give it like a 1. If that.
Oh, Paul.
God almighty. These people
But
who
no,
don't
so
read comics.
what's funny about this is the highest rated Punisher movie out there is Dirty Laundry.
Oh, the Dirty Laundry is great. For people who
It's a
don't know, yeah.
3.5 or 3 point, what was it? I just saw it. Where'd it go? It's on here. It's on this on Letterbox. It's a 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
It's a short film. It was created by Thomas Jane. Ron Perlman's in it. It's a great uh, short film that is available on YouTube that you can watch it. But yeah, it's kind of funny how that's not even an actual official Punisher movie, and
No, Thomas J
and,
made it himself because he loves being the Punisher.
it's the highest rated Punisher movie, which is pretty funny.
It's really good. Like people that don't know, go check out Dirty Laundry on YouTube with the Punisher. It's
Yeah,
excellent.
the Punisher TV series on
He doesn't even have
IMDb.
he never even fires a gun in it.
So
Like,
IMDb has the Punisher TV series as an 8.5 out of 10. Just so you know.
okay, well that's more than I would give it personally.
I know. What was
Personal
Rotten
opinion.
Tomatoes? Rotten Tomatoes has it as a 65%, so 6.5 out of 10.
All right.
So,
All right. So
that's your the
that's your
scale
spread.
of
Right.
Punisher movies. And so here's I guess the question is, like, this movie was
Right.
awesome. This started off. This is the first Punisher movie there was.
Yeah.
And we ended up having what, 3 more or 2 more, a short film and a TV show come out
Yeah.
after this. The Warzone's not good, but as a lifetime of a character, I don't think that Punisher's as bad as some of the other characters that we've seen, like Fantastic Four or Ghost Rider.
Oh God, Fantastic
Some people
Four
have
movie.
just not
Oh,
had
the
the
Ghost Rider. Oh,
what's it,
Elektra.
Dare.
Oh,
Electra. I go. Electra
Elektra
kind of
in the
redeemed
Daredevil
herself in
and
the
the
TV
Defenders
shows.
was good.
Yeah,
Like that Elektra was good, but the Jennifer Gardner
but
Elektra.
I'm saying, like, this is one of those solo characters that just hasn't had. I mean, the Hulk has had a crappy movie,
Oh yeah.
and then the things. So this one's, but it stood the test of time, and I think it's because Punisher is a uncomplicated character to do.
There isn't. You don't know
Needs revenge, and he kills a bunch of people, and that's the entire story. You can do whatever you want around it. You can
Justin, this isn't revenge. It's punishment.
Okay.
I had that shirt back in the day.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's this idea that there's not much else going on. There's not a big depth of it. You don't need to know. You never need to. He's pissed that his kids are not alive anymore, and he's just enacting revenge on.
So in the comics,
people.
you found out that with Punisher Born, you found out that this all started with his time at war, and that chances are he was probably gonna snap anyway.
Yeah.
That was the final thing when his family was murdered in front of him. But chances are he was probably gonna start heading this route anyway.
Yeah, and so there's only a bad way is to tell a bad story or bad casting, and I think that this movie kicked off a pretty good lifetime so far for the Punisher on screen, and Dolph Lundgren kicked butt at it literally, and set up the future for it. And then Thomas Jane came in there and kicked some butt and did all that stuff. And then there was a little bit of a with Ray Stevenson movie. And then again, whether you like it or not, it was well made and well done. I think that the TV show is there. So where's the future lie? Do we get more Punisher, or do we not now, because the whole pushback on the Punisher logos and all this other stuff that's going on there? Like,
we have
Punisher
all this stuff
done?
about it? Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Supposedly he's going to show up in the Daredevil series TV show.
Right.
But I don't know, like, is this like,
I think the Punisher could be an in-depth character either way, because if you're for him or against him, you know what I mean? You have the people out there that are not going to want to see the Punisher, but are still going to want to see what happens with him. And, you can look at it and say he's doing what needs to be done, that justice can't be served. Or you can look at it that he is a monster and a serial killer. But either way, he's interesting. Like, either way, you want to see what's going on.
After having these 3 early movies, a TV show, so on and so forth, is there enough want and need for a full feature film or some sort of like TV series by himself? Or you think this is basically just part of Daredevil, part of Echo?
I think he'll probably pop up here and there. Yeah, I'd be surprised if he gets his own movie, especially where now in the MCU, we have the Punisher. We all know what his deal is. We all know what's going on. So there isn't really a much of a story to tell, per se. I don't see them bothering to write in a whole thing to make a new Punisher movie. Just personal opinion, I'd be very surprised. But adding him on as a side character here, there, and elsewhere, I mean, why not?
Well, I think it's mainly because I think there's because there isn't so much complexity to him. I think
Yeah,
there's not enough. I think some people would be afraid to. Honestly, though, with Marvel Cinematic Universe over the years and their ability to take a superhero movie and put a subgenre to it, meaning that like Ant-Man's a heist movie, and you've got like Guardians of the Galaxy being more comedy, and you have you have these movies that are like superhero movies, but they're like that's the secondary genre to the fact that we're making a heist movie that's based around superheroes.
yeah,
And so you could technically take someone like the Punisher and be like, no, we're gonna make a badass Jason Statham style,
yeah. If you
uh,
need to make like a big action movie, you want to make a huge action movie, then
the
Punisher's
John
on
Wick
board.
of the MCU and just bring in
Yeah,
Punisher.
you got the Punisher and
And,
you got Deadpool. Like that's your two guys.
that would be a great movie. Deadpool Wolverine, and then its sequel is Deadpool Punisher. Are you kidding me right now? Let's watch that. And again, it'd
That,
be the same
talk
similar
about the
premise.
talk about
Just
the
do this.
chaos of that, where Frank's just out there killing guys because that's what Frank does, and we don't know what Deadpool's doing.
Just do it. Just take a cookie cutter. Just take Wolverine, Deadpool, and make the movie over again, but sub out Punisher and do the multiversal thing where he goes and finds Thomas Jane and he finds Ray Stevenson and he finds Dolph Lundgren and does all these finds whatever. Which one's the best Punisher? And bring him in and be like, that's the Punisher that stays because I say so.
Right.
But again, we've talked about this in the shop. Another character, Ryan Reynolds, another actor who loves the character so much, wants to do it so well that
Yeah.
he pushes for things and does. He
That
wants
Thomas
to do Deadpool
Jane
3. Yes.
made his own
On
thing.
it.
I would have personally just loved to seen Thomas Jane continue being the
Yeah.
Punisher.
But
And maybe that's some of my problem with the new one too, is that
he's not that old, but he's too old.
now he is, yeah, probably.
Now he is too old.
Probably.
Old man Punisher. Let's do a whole old man series. Old man Logan, old man Punisher, all these things.
Yeah.
Punisher's like rolling on his motorized wheelchair, shooting people. But yeah, no. I think so.
All right, so
here's
what do we rate these at? 5 stars? Is that what we do?
5 stars.
5 stars. Okay. So I'm gonna be realistic. I'm gonna try to eliminate my childhood nostalgia for action movies and how much I watched this as a kid. I would go 3.5, I think, on this. Maybe 3.25. You know what I mean? Like 3.25 star. I think anybody that likes action movies, anybody that likes The Punisher, I think if you're looking for like 90 minutes of entertainment, you got it. Don't look for amazing depth, plot, and otherwise. It's an 80s action movie, folks. It is what it is.
3 stars for me. And I think that is it's one of our higher movie we've ranked on here. It's not like because the movie isn't all-star award-winning movie. It's just a well-made movie, and it doesn't deviate so much from the source material like so far that some of these, when we get to watch the 1990 Captain America movie, it's like that's going to be a big sticking point, I think, to us, is the fact that they deviated so much from the original story that how can you even give this a star rating of 5 stars? Because even if the movie was well made, it's like, well, you deviated so far from the original source material with the main character. This isn't like some of these Marvel movies that come out now where like a B character or C character has a different gender or different whatever, and it's like, okay, they're not even the focus of the whole movie. Like the fact that Captain America in this movie, when we go to watch this, is like a lawyer, and you're like, wait a second. Yeah. What just happened? And
wait, so he served in World War II and then decided to go and
defend the country by defending people's innocence. But no, and so like with this, at least there is a deviation from the comic books in the sense, but instead of making him in the military, they made him a cop. It's like, okay, how far of a deviation is that? Like, there's certain things that, like, obviously, it's not perfect. It's not a 1-for-1 comic book into a movie.
Even the Thomas Jane one, he was like a DEA agent or whatever, and there was like hints that something else had gone on. I think it's pretty obvious with the amount of weapon familiarity that he has and fighting skills he has. He is not just your average beat cop. No. I'm pretty sure that Dolph Lundgren's Punisher has done some
I would
stuff.
not have wanted to be arrested by Dolph Lundgren. I'll tell you that right now. Well, he'd shoot first. You know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There isn't going to be an answering on that one. Yeah. There isn't going to be.
You make it one mistake and you're done. Sorry.
Done. Yeah. Problem solved.
But so yeah, 3.5. That makes sense. It makes sense in the fact that it's a really good movie.
Right there.
And it's not one of those, those movies you say that we didn't have much complaints. And that's one of those things that we talked about before outside of the recording, was like one of the main reasons we liked watching some of the crappier movies in the pop culture zeitgeist is because the fact that we have more to talk about. But I actually think that for being a positive movie, I think we had a lot to talk about, which is pretty cool on this movie. We didn't say, yeah, I liked it, you liked it, cool. Because some of our book clubs are like that. Like the movies the books that we all like, we're like, okay, that's cool. We're 50 minutes in, everybody liked it.
Really
what else
good
can we
book club
say?
books are like, well, we're done. Like everything was.
No one's defending anything or fighting over anything because we're like, yeah, we agree with you. Shut up. Let's just talk.
Yeah.
And the same thing with these, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it definitely has some cornball stuff in it. I think if you took Dolph Lundgren's Punisher and you put him in Gotham for 72 hours, you would just see him riding away from Gotham on his motorcycle, and like the sun's coming up and Gotham looks fine, and just like everything's resolved.
Wait, there's Arkham's daytime in Gotham?
Like Arkham's on fire in the background. They're trying to put Blackgate Prison out over there. And like,
there's no sun in Gotham. The sun doesn't exist in Gotham. I don't know what you're talking about.
There's a guy out crossing out the Gotham population and rewriting it, and Frank's just driving away. He just got Dolph Lundgren on the bike.
Batman, that's it.
Just all of the criminals just done. Batman and his Joker problem, and his Scarecrow problem, and his Two-Face problem. And Dolph Lundgren just cleared all that.
But yeah. So it was fun, and I think it was definitely worth watching. And I think that's one of those fun things that we threw on there. We're like, oh, this is cool, excited to watch it. Paul, obviously, nostalgic-wise, loved watching it. I loved watching it. I had actually never seen it before this, which is really cool. Yeah, which is really cool. I mean, I was 3, and then before the invention of the internet and stuff like that, obviously it was almost impossible to watch unless you owned it, and it was hard to get, and so on and so forth.
You just asked me to borrow it.
Yeah, exactly.
I owned it on VHS and then on DVD.
So the next movie Paul and I are going to be recording and just doing is Doctor Strange from 1978. That'll be fun to do. Again, another movie where I don't think anybody's ever seen it. Neither one of us have seen it. This will be fun.
You didn't even know it existed.
Viewing. And then right after that, honestly, a couple episodes later, because of the way that the baby's coming and trying to get some episodes in and stuff like that, will be Dick Tracy.
I can't wait for that.
That will be a 1990s movie, Dick Tracy, because right in April, the episode will come out in April. In April, the new Mad Cave Studios series, Dick Tracy from Alex Segura and Michael Moresi is coming out too. So we thought
I'm also excited for.
Yeah, so we're excited for that.
And a lot of the friends of Galactic Comics and friends of the podcast have exclusive covers for that Dick Tracy series coming out.
So it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah,
to see that
I'm looking forward to watching Dick Tracy, and I loved it as a kid. So I haven't seen. That's a movie I haven't seen in 20 years, if not more. So I'm looking forward to that. Now I did a little research on this Doctor Strange. It's actually got high reviews. I mean, granted, I don't think there's that many reviews. You know what I mean? But the 5 people that watched it liked it enough that it's got decent reviews. So I mean, I'm interested to see how you do Doctor Strange in 1978 and not make this look horrible. This is going to be interesting. I'm sort of excited.
Yeah, me too.
I never even knew this movie existed. So,
but until then, you can visit Galactic Comics on Facebook, Instagram, all those things. Galactic Comics and collectibles.com.
Get your GWO shirts on.
Yes, go check out those. But yeah, I think we're done. I think we're ready.
Yeah.
We got to rip and roll. I've got to use the boys' room, so we're gonna sign off here quickly before I pee my pants. No. Thanks again, Paul. I appreciate it as always. Again, check out Galactic Comics and Collectibles.com for all the more information on that stuff over there. The new shirts that you've got going on over there as well. If you send him a message, I'm sure he'll throw a request in for a new hat too if you want a hat, and so on and so forth. So check that out. But until next time, Paul, thanks a lot, dude.
Thanks, man.